Good morning, I'm George, and we're here for a My Life program with Clark Cook at Cook's Farm Dairy. It's a very exciting time here on the farm, and we're going to take some time with Clark, and he's going to describe what's happened to the family operation over the various generations. Clark and I are distant cousins. Families go back a long way. I'm 6th generation, Clark is 7th generation of a settler that came into the area in 1837. So our families have spent a lot of time together, and it's with a lot of pride that I sat down today with Clark, and it is a pleasure.
Thank you.
We're talking now about 4 generations, and let's talk about the first generation, Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, they started in 1933, and Grandpa actually kind of lived in Clarkston, and his parents owned Rudy's. And the Rudy's used to sell cars. You could either buy a Ford or a Buick for about $450, and then you could get gas for a penny a gallon, and they only hold 5 cents. So people would pull up there and only get a penny at a time. And he said, well, didn't seem like he was going to make any money. And so he had an opportunity to get a farm during the Depression where they could sell corn for like $2.30 a bushel and maybe start milking cows. And so he decided to go ahead and go to the farm route. And so here we are, 86 years later, and cars are like $45,000, and corn is still $2.40, $3 a bushel.
So farmers have been depressed, and
we're getting more yield, but it's still
you're more efficient, but
more efficient. We're still not making as much. So that's how we ended up at the farm. And then they started off with a few cows and chickens and ducks, and every year they got a little bit more. And they told stories how they would saved all the money for a year and a half to buy the first tractor for about $500 or $600, and then that helped from doing the horse-drawn stuff.
I saw a picture in the photo album you shared that I think in 1940 was when they got the first tractor.
Yeah, and it was
horses cool. Prior to that time.
Right. So it just evolved, and we bought more land and cleared the land, got the trees out, and it's just been a long process.
So you said basically starting out they had approximately how many acres?
I think they had about 70 or 80 acres, and then they bought more land from the neighbors as it grew.
Mm-hmm. And
we're up to 200 acres now.
200 acres on the
premises.
On the premises, and then you lease another
150 acres that we need to help feed the cows. So we're doing about 350 acres of hay and corn to feed to the 165 animals that we have here at the farm.
Wow. Big operation. So first generation then was Grandpa and Grandma, had 2 daughters.
Right. It was Sally and Sandra, and the barn burnt down in like 58, and my dad happened to live down the road a mile at a farm, and there was 2 or 3 brothers, and he was working for a contractor as well as the farming. And so when the barn burnt down, he got a job of building the farm, the contractor to put the barn up. And while he was building the barn, he met my mom, and then he never left. So he pretty much built the farm, built the houses, helped build the dairy, and we lost them both in '93, both to cancer. My grandpa was 82 and my dad was only 56.
Wow, that was in what year, 93?
93, yep.
93.
So we lost my dad before my grandpa actually in 93.
Wow, no, I remember.
So I've been here, by myself since then. So.
Since 93, it's basically been your operation.
26 years or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of, it's huge, and again, I remember both of the gentlemen, outstanding men. Your dad was so funny though. Your dad was a character.
Yeah.
He was just good-natured, happy-go-lucky, just
hard worker. He was more of a carpenter than a farmer, but he could do both because he was raised on the farm and did the carpentry. So a lot of these barns and buildings, and silos were all built by him.
Yeah. So his footprint is here.
Yeah.
His footprint is definitely here. So your mom and dad married, and they had 2 siblings.
Yeah, it was me and my brother, and we grew up and we were in 4-H quite a bit and did a few things, and then we went to Michigan State, and my brother graduated from Michigan State and started his own business and selling cow semen around the state. Mm-hmm. Plus he got a cow-calf beef operation which they live in Reed City, and he operates that. Then when I graduated from college, I come home and built the farm. We had a project, what kind of spurred it on is I had a project at school that we had to take the original farm and try to make as much money as we could. And so a lot of guys, it was all on paper. And then, you know, they take the hay off, put the corn and try to triple crop and stuff. But I had the idea of coming home and putting it in a processing plant and making our own milk and selling it. And so it'd be like moo to you and get rid of the middleman. And that's what I ended up doing. When I got out of school in 1981, we broke ground for the processing plant.
And then what's involved in that when we think of that processing? It means instead of going to a bulk coming and taking the milk away to be processed, you do it all right here.
Yeah, we pretty much milk the cows and it goes into a holding tank. And before, like you said, the truck would take it to a big plant like Borden's or Kroger in Detroit. Right now it goes into our own plant where we make our own milk, like 2%, skim milk, whole milk, chocolate milk, buttermilk. Then we also make our own ice cream, which everybody seems to enjoy. We make up to 1,600 gallons of ice cream a week just to keep up.
Wow.
We make about 25 different flavors, and we sell that to 8 or 10 stores, and a lot of people come here to pick it up. So we pretty much, the milk, you know, it never really leaves the farm. It just goes from moo to you.
And who coined moo to you? Was that
there was I don't know if it was been around, but we kind of picked it up, and that was just one of the things that
I noticed. We'll share pictures that the folks will see in this production of the initial parade you were in, and the phrase "moo to you" when you started that operation. Yeah. And the bags were different, as I remember.
Yeah, we put the milk originally over in Canada and Europe. They were putting the milk in a plastic pouch. And what was unique about the plastic pouch is you could make your own container. It would come like one piece of saran wrap, let's say, and it would fold together, and you'd make a tube, and then you would fill it with milk, and then you'd put it in these little pitchers, and we pour out of there. And that's how we got started, and that's the way it was in Canada, and we thought that's the way it was going to go. And we tried for 15 years to make it go, and people just weren't getting the hang of it. So after my dad passed away in '93, we bought a jugger machine and started putting the milk in hard plastic
in the
jugs.
Conventional,
just like everybody else. Yeah.
Like everybody else. So basically the idea was over in Canada first and probably Europe, and it just didn't take hold.
Michigan State had quite a bit up at Quality Dairy Stores. We're using it also.
Okay. We're going to take a break now, Clark, and we're going to come back for another segment.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you. Welcome back for another segment of My Life here with Clark Cook at Cook's Farm Dairy. Clark, we finished the first segment and we were talking about the idea that you had coming back from Michigan State, the moo to you, and we were talking about what's involved in that, the actual operation, the equipment. The folks will take some pictures of it later on to show the folks, but what's actually involved in that?
Well, you have to have a pasteurizer, an homogenizer, and a bottler or jugger, cream separator to make your skim and 2%. And then when you're making the ice cream, you have different pasteurizers and stuff. And so we have quite a lot of machines, ice cream machines and so on. So it's a whole nother process. We have about 8 or 9 inspectors, and every inspector has its own location to check. And sometimes it's one to check the cows, and one's just to check the pasteurizer, one's to check the store, one, you know, so we have a lot of people are
just dropping in periodically.
Yeah. So yeah, they come anytime. So you have to go through all the steps, and they have a PMO, a big book that you have to have to meet the regulations to process your own milk. We're considered what they call a producer handler, where we produce the milk and we handle it. And there's about back in the 80s, there was about 13 or 14 of them in the state, and right now I think we're down to about 6 or 7.
Wow.
And so all in Pennsylvania and stuff, they have a lot more. But to meet, you just have to, you know, all the requirements have to be met to be able to bottle your own milk and put your name on your label and sell it.
So in the state of Michigan, you're kind of elite then when it comes to that.
Right. We can sell our milk. We're just like Kroger or Borden's, we have the same inspectors that go to our place, that go to their place, so we have to meet their other regulations, but we're just a lot smaller. You know, the volume-wise is a lot smaller.
And your cows, basically, all the milk here that you have, you put it into the milk, the ice cream, and that's basically why you keep your cow level at about 60,
Right.
because that's the product that you can sell. And
Yeah, we know about how much milk we need. We try not to have too much. Sometimes if we have a little bit too much in the first quarter of the year, January through March, you know, we're not selling much ice cream, we're not selling any eggnog. We do have a couple cheese places that we go to, and they make cheese. Our next step was probably where the cows were at in the old barn, will probably become a processing facility to make our own cheese, so we can utilize
that'll be
that too.
exciting.
Yeah,
That'll be exciting. So
that's what we're thinking.
And we were talking before we started out, I was familiar with an operation similar to this over between Grand Rapids and Lansing called Moveville, and you said you helped to train the family.
Yeah, they come 4 or 5 times, and the kid come and stayed at the house for a week, and we taught him how to make the milk and the ice cream and the processing plant, and we're still good friends, and we bounce stuff off them, and they bounce stuff off us, and you know, there's only, like I said, 7 or 8 of us, and so we all stay together, and we have a problem, somebody's down, we try to help them out. So
That's great. That's great. And going back to Grandma and Grandpa, they both, I saw in the, I've seen pictures of Grandpa's graduation class at Clarkston High School. Grandma also was a Clarkston graduate. Family was actually Bailey Lake Elementary School in Clarkston was named after the family.
Right.
Grandma Bernadine was a Bailey originally, and with that, so basically they met and you had an interesting story about Grandpa, where he was raised.
Yeah, well, so my grandma was about like 3 or 4 miles from here, and with her family, and my grandpa lived right down Main Street in Clarkston, and I think where the community center is, I think they call it now, and that's where they had their school at. It was 1 K through 12, and Grandpa he would go, was always late, he was always working down at Rudy's or something, so he would run across the road and to go to school, but the guy that was ringing the bell would not ring the bell until he saw him coming, so he wouldn't be late for school. So he had quite a lot of stories about Grandpa going there, and well, Grandpa was a good-looking guy, and they said he pretty much run the town back in the day back there. So.
He had any girl who wanted to.
he run or Clarkston back in the day,
Yeah.
so he was a lot of fun. So he's the one that started the farm.
Started that, and again, Clarkston has evolved, and again, the idea of the old time, and folks are familiar with Rudy's, but don't realize that it was a car dealership back in
Right, if you go upstairs at one time, there at wood shop above, they had all the cars lined up, and then the gas pump that I talked about was there, and they had a picture of it down there at the wood shop.
I think there's even one in the photo album.
Yeah, we might have one here too.
Yeah,
so
we'll share that
pretty
too.
Cool.
So, and we've talked about ice cream. Again, you had the milk production, then was it the idea you just had extra milk and you decided to go ice cream then?
That's what it was. Is we were selling the milk in the bags, and the bags weren't quite getting the response that we wanted. So my dad said, "Well, let's start making chocolate milk." So we made chocolate milk. Then that went over good. Let's start making buttermilk. Then he said, "Well, we still got milk left. Let's start making ice cream." So we ended up buying an ice cream machine and buying different machines that we needed to make it. And so we started small. And we went from like 100 gallons a week to like 2,000 gallons a week, which we're at to now. So you know, everybody likes it. We did a good job. At the time, we found a guy that had a formula, did all the formulas for the ice cream, and we made the best formula out of all the plants at the time.
And you still have
and
it.
We
Your
still
ice
use
cream
the
is
original,
delicious.
Still use the original formula for our ice cream.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff, like the vanillas and some of the fudge pieces and stuff, we're having complications on where they come from, or if it's vanilla shortage or stuff like that. But we try to get the best quality ingredients we can for our ice cream. We don't, the old saying is you don't put junk in, you get junk out. So we put the best stuff we can in there, and it pays off, and everybody likes the ice cream.
It again is delicious, and I like the flavor of the month. I've had that a couple times.
Right. We also
s'more.
make our own hot fudge. Mike, we had one time we had we used to make it right on back in the day in the kitchen, And one day, all of a sudden, there's people just lining up out the door and getting hot fudge. We get into one, and Detroit Free Press had run the Best Hot Fudge Award, and we didn't know about it. And but we were on the front page, and we couldn't figure out why everybody was here. So after that, we started making our own in the plant. We had to buy this big soup kettle, and we went from making like a quart at a time to about 8.5 gallons of hot fudge just for the toppings, the time to put on. So our hot fudge our ice cream is good, but our hot fudge is really addicting, and we
I haven't had that yet. I need
our
to.
hot fudge is the best hot fudge around. They put us up against Saunders and 3 or 4 other ones, and we beat them all. So people come from all over to get our hot
That's
fudge.
exciting. That is exciting. So we've talked about your mom and dad. We've talked about your brother. You came back to the farm, and then when did you meet Lori, or how did you meet your wife?
Well, she actually moved up to our high school, or like our sophomore year, but we didn't start dating until after a couple years ever got out of high school. I just knew of her. I had delivered. Her parents had like 10 acres out on Kyer Road with a couple horses, and I delivered some hay there. So I knew where she lived and what was going on, and we had a mutual friend that she was seeing at the time. He said, "Hey, I'm going out, with Lori Lincoln." And so I said, "Hey, I haven't seen her in a while." So I called her up and we asked her out, and we ended up meeting for dinner and going to a movie, and then the rest is history. So
That's awesome.
We've been married for 35 years now.
Congratulations. That's outstanding. So we're going to take another break, and then we'll come back and focus on what's happening behind us.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back for our final segment here with Clark Cook at Cook's Farm Dairy, talking about my life. And we've had an interesting conversation to this point, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the 4th generation, and that led to this behind us. So let's talk about your children. You have how many? You and Lori got married. You have how many children?
We have 3 children. Alexandra is our daughter, and she just got married last year, and she went to Michigan State, and she is a dietitian at a hospital. And
living in the area?
Right now they're in Marshall.
Okay.
But they're
not
working
far.
in Lansing.
Okay.
Okay, so they're trying to get a little bit closer to home, but they're working on it. And then Quentin went to Alma College for 4 years and got a physics degree.
Physics?
And played basketball for
Okay.
him. And then he's the one to come home and decided to stay in the farm, and the reason why we built the new addition and put the robot on and stuff.
And then third
Nathan is going to be a sophomore this year at Michigan State, and he's trying to work with the men's basketball and the women's basketball teams. He's a manager for the women's this year, but he's trying to get on the men's next year. So he's a busy guy, and he's been going around the country running camps and stuff this summer. So
Let's hope.
but they help out when they're home in the summer. Everybody tries to help out. My daughter still runs our website, which you can go on and see and try to keep that up. And
Cook's Farm Dairy then? Or?
Yeah, Cook's Farm Dairy Inc. Yep, and we're on. We got a pretty nice little website, and you can try to keep the hours and tours and stuff like that.
Okay, very good. So Quentin comes home from Alma,
Yeah.
and we start talking about him being involved in the family business. And then, had he seen this, or how did the robot even come into conversation?
Well, the robots come in the United States around the year 2000, so they only been around about 17, 18 years. In the first few years, they had a lot of problems. And this company that we have is a Lely company, and they're getting the bugs worked out, and they're one of the first ones. And we happened to get a good lead on one, believe it or not, on Craigslist. And a guy had it up for a day in Ohio, and we run down there and picked it up. And he was getting out of business. And so we pretty much had the robot before we started building the building.
Wow.
And so then after that we had to, because it's more modern, the way the free stalls are and the way the cows have to be fed and taken care of. We had to build a new facility. And so the new facility is like 130 by 130 with a 40-foot roof on it. And so everything is all automatic. All the cows are fed by machine. All the manure is hauled by machine. And then obviously the robot milks the cows by hand, or, you know.
So basically, we talked about the folks at Moville and Nashville. They helped you with some of the design, or at least your design is modeled after what they have.
Yeah, they have. There's a certain. The company actually kind of tells you this is what you got to have and where you got to put it and what works good. And so the company has some ideas of where it was at, but all the producer handlers talk together and we try to, you know, throw together what fits for us and what our needs are.
So basically, the robot allows the cows to be milked anytime they want it, anytime in the 24-hour day. And normally, you were milking, in the old barn in stanchions, you were milking how many
Twice
times?
a day. It's mandatory to milk them twice a day, so we milk, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night. Take 2.5 hours to milk them each time. So, I mean, we milked in there since my grandpa, 86 years, we didn't miss one time. If the power goes off, you have to have a big generator to keep things going, to keep the cows milked.
Even with the fire, you got it.
You got to keep milking them no matter what happens, funeral, weddings. So now the robot is going to make it a little bit more easier around dinner time if you want to go out to eat. Or you know, you can get away. If you have a funeral or something, hopefully the robot will be able to milk the cows and give you a little bit more time.
And the cows, though, get onto this, and you end up getting more than 2 times.
Yeah, we milk them 3 times a day, and some of the ones that just had calves could be milked 5 or 6 times a day.
Wow.
And when they relieve the pressure, it makes them feel better, and they start producing more milk. They'll actually give more, like 10 or 15% more milk by milking them 3 times a day in with the robot.
Wow.
So everything's the robot keeps track of about 30 different things, how long it takes to milk them, how much feed they get.
Out of each udder, too. Out of each stick.
One quarter gets done quicker than the other ones. It'll be taken off and put on the other ones. It keeps track of how much feed they have. There's all kinds of things you can use it for.
I saw a few cows in here that tried to cheat the system. They came back in for a second time, and because of the nice feed you have there, you have a special feed mix that they get. And when it wasn't their time, the robot says, "Okay, wrong time," and open the door, and
we call it. It's like pellets, but we call it candy. So they want the candy to get in there, and so they'll keep trying. Every once in a while, you'll get a cow that's a little bit more aggressive, and all she wants to do is eat, and she won't let the other ones in, and so we have to put her in a different location. But a lot of times they got to be like 4 hours before the robot will milk them or let them eat again.
Okay.
So they're all the time trying to get in there. They really like it after they get used to it. Right now, as we're sitting here, we've only been 1 month into it. They recommend like 2 months into it before it gets a little bit more easier for them and more at ease. And so,
well, I was here 2 weeks ago, and Quentin was out getting some of the slow ones around, and I think that's even less and less now.
Yeah.
They're getting the routine.
Eventually, they'll just come in there whenever they want. 24 hours. We're basically, the robot will wash 3 times a day for about 45 minutes, and the rest of the time we're milking. So we're milking right around the clock, 24 hours a day. There's getting a cow milk. Right. There's a few minutes every once in a while, but most often there's a cow in there all the time.
So let's talk about the operation. Grandma and Grandpa, it was basically a 2-person operation. When your dad came involved, it up to 2, 3, 4 people, and some other hired hand seasonally. Today, how many employees do you have?
We have about 30 employees, and you know, 2 or 3 main people. So we have 30, 35 people working in the summer. We have about 17 work in the winter. We used to be the biggest employer for Ortonville until McDonald's come, you know, about 10 years ago. But after that, so we've had a lot of kids. A lot of times it works out good for their schedule for going to college. They'll come and they'll work for us all summer and go back to college.
That's your peak time.
Yeah, and so that works out good for us because that's when we need them to help dip the ice cream. And so we've had, over the years, if you figure, you know, 15 to 20 people for the last 35 years, we've had a lot of kids, and seeing everybody having their own kids now, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so it's cool.
Again, the family staying here in the community, you're kind of a fixture, and folks being a part of your extended family,
Right.
just that continues. So that's interesting. We talked about the activities here at the farm. I know you've got probably the best Santa Claus in southeastern Michigan for your
Right.
time with Santa. What are some of the activities you have
Well,
here?
we do the Santa Claus thing in around Christmas time. You get your picture for free and stuff with him. Our biggest thing right now is our pumpkin patch. We do in the whole month October. We give tours all year round of the farm. If you call by appointment, we need like 15 to 20 people to have a tour. So we have a lot of school groups that come, especially like in May and June, right before they get out. We'll have up to 100 people at a time. But our biggest thing right now is our pumpkin patch in the month of October. And you can come on the weekends and we put you on a hayride and we go see the 200-acre farm.
Wow.
Takes about half an hour, and then we put you out in 12 acres of pumpkin, and you can pick your own pumpkin any size you can carry. So we've got some little guys that weigh like 30 pounds. Dad's getting an 80-pound pumpkin, so we've had a lot of big pumpkins going out of there. So that's our biggest thing is in the fall right now for that.
For the
And we're
pumpkin.
busy in the summer for the ice cream, and we're open 7 days a week. There's only 4 days we're closed, and that is Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter Sunday, and New Year's Day.
Just
Sometimes on New Year. But even on those days, the neighbors will come and get a gallon of milk and throw some money up on the counter. We're open just about right around the clock. 'Cause
That's interesting.
Somebody have to be here.
And this room eventually will become involved in your
Yeah,
tours.
this is
What's
where
the
the
future
tours
for
will
this?
start. We can probably get 50 or 60 people in here, get a whole busload of kids in here, and it'll start here and go see the rest of the facilities.
And you bring children from Pontiac, from
Yeah.
Detroit, that come out here to
yeah.
see the actual dairy
Yeah, they
operation?
come from all over, especially, sometimes even like from Pinckney, we get a group every year, and it seems like there'd be some farms out there, but they drive for over an hour to get here, and mostly probably because we have, have the ice cream and milk, and they can see the robot and stuff. But people like to come out, and so like getting to be a destination place instead of just some place to go buy ice cream. People average stay out here about almost 45 minutes to an hour when they get an ice cream. They walk around, they see the
Well, the
animals and
calves
stuff.
are a
They like to
magnet.
play the calves. We have a few pigs, and they like to see the pigs and the calves.
Most of the calves that are born stay here on the farm, or do you call them and select them to?
We keep all the females. When we have a male cow, we will sell them to another farm or any individual, and they feed them out for like freezer beef.
Okay.
So we keep all the females.
One thing I noticed when I took your information, and on the business card, it has your name, and then it has a Bible verse below it.
Right.
And it reflecting upon farming, agriculture. I was involved at Wojo's, and the mission statement of Wojo starts with the help of the Lord.
Yep.
You folks, again, family, I know Grandma and Grandpa, Seymour Lake Methodist Church,
Right.
your mom, your family. Oh, it has a lot to do with your operation.
Yeah, I still go to the same church that I was born and raised in for 60 years, the United Methodist Church, and we believe that God's given us everything that we have. And it's a great thing. So we thank God for everything that we got, and that's
Yeah.
our faith.
Yeah, and it's outstanding, and you work hard, but the rewards come, and it's exciting to think about what's going to happen here, and you having Quentin to help you, I think, is going to be important. It's going to take some of the load off of you and Lori, and let you kind of do some other things, and let
That's what
him.
we're hoping. That's what
Yeah.
the plan is.
Yeah.
My wife gave him, turned 60, she says that's her cutoff. So we got another year and a half there.
Very good. So Clark, I want to say this has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
God
you.
bless you.